this Senate race, I've been watching some of these ads, and there's sort of this sense that, well, you know, I heard someone say, well, Joni Ernst, she's really attractive. And she sounds nice. Well, I got to thinking about that. I don't care if she's as good looking as Taylor Swift or as nice as Mr. Rogers. But if she votes like Michelle Bachmann, she's wrong for the state of Iowa.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Joni Ernst, she's good looking, she sounds nice, but I mean, my gosh. Joining us now is Ed Morrissey, featured columnist and senior editor on hotair.com, columnist for the week. Ed, you wrote a great piece I saw in the Fiscal Times the other day about how the Democrats lost the phony war on women. That was before the remarks here by Harkin and some other remarks as well. They really have lost it, haven't they?
They've lost it, and I think on more than one level here. I mean, I think Harkin's comments in Iowa over the weekend I believe this was over the weekend. It just came out last night. And I think it shows just how desperate they are to try to turn Republicans into, first off, into extremists simply by the dint of their own rhetoric. And at the same time, expose themselves as hypocrites and extremists as well. I mean, as Joni Ernst said earlier today, if her name was John Ernst, there's no way that her appearance would come up in a political attack. And yet here is Tom Harkin, who is basically reducing a 21-year veteran of the armed services, an Iraq War combat veteran, and a two-time state Senate not candidate, excuse me, state senator, two-term state senator, to basically her looks. And this is actually the war on women. This is actually demeaning and actually patronizing. And it's of a piece of what Kirsten Gillibrand was complaining about 2 months ago when she was talking about how she was being treated in the Senate. And
I wonder if Harkin was one of those unnamed senators that harassed her.
you have to ask the question, right? Because he's been in there during that period of time. And if this is the commentary he's willing to offer in public, I mean, you have to ask yourself whether or not he was one of the ones that she was complaining about.
Well, I want to put a poll up on the screen. We have a Washington Post ABC News poll from 2008. Comparing unmarried women and how much they favored Democrats back in 2008 and compared to how much they favor Democrats now. In 2008, it was a 13-point lead, unmarried women for Obama, 56-43. And today, it's a 5-point lead, 48% to that same 43. So they have lost 8 points on unmarried women. I mean, married women tend to favor Republicans anyway, but we're talking about part of their base.
Yeah, I mean, they've always been trying hard to stretch out that gender gap among single women, especially single women. And the last cycle in 2012, it was also pretty profound. And that was at the peak of the war on women rhetoric, having to do with the whole contraception issue, which was just complete demagoguery. And the difference this time around is I think that it has become a farce. It has become a patently transparent farce. And Democrats simply haven't caught up to that. They thought they could run the same playbook that they ran in 2012 with single women. And I think single women wised up in the meantime. Also, they're probably a little annoyed about the idea that the only thing they care about is contraception.
Right.
I mean, there's national security concerns, there's economic concerns, there's health concerns.
Absolutely.
With Ebola, with the way that the administration's handling this. And
it's insulting. It's absolutely
exactly.
insulting.
It's insulting.
And Ed, if this had been, or if it will be, even notwithstanding what just happened and all the sexist remarks from the Democrat side against women. And by the way, it was the head of the RNC, Reince Priebus, told me a week ago that Joni Ernst is the best candidate they have out there. But if we have time, you can weigh in on that. But if someone dares to say this about Hillary, if she decides to run, or even if she doesn't decide to run, going forward, her looks, her age, anything, they will be attacked and savaged by the media like there's no tomorrow.
Absolutely. It is a complete double standard. And I think that's what these Harkin comments show, is that they're willing to screech about this, but they're saying they're saying worse. They're saying much worse than any Republican would dare to say publicly.
Absolutely.
And to your other question about who's the best candidate, Ernst is one of the best candidates in this cycle. I would actually say that Cory Gardner is probably the most savvy candidate in the Senate races, at least in this cycle. He really undid Mark Udall in Colorado, and that was not easy to do in a state that had been trending pretty hard Democrat over the last couple of cycles. Cory Gardner has really changed the way politics operates in Colorado. So I give him number one, but Ernst has definitely got a great argument for being the second best candidate in the cycle, I think.
Yeah, and of course she could always follow Barack Obama's basically get elected to the Senate, but don't even basically serve and just run for president.
She could do that.
Yeah, she could. And she's got the military background. She's a very unique person. All right, Ed, great to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on, Steve.
My pleasure. My pleasure. We'll be back with the senior contributing editor of the Jerusalem Post, Caroline Glick, after the break. But first, because tomorrow are the midterms, let's check in on the 10th CD House race in Illinois with our Road to the Midterms update.
Democratic Representative Brad Schneider is running for re-election in Illinois' 10th Congressional District. His challenger? The man he took the job away from in 2012, Republican Bob Dole. The race is unique for voters, with Dole being just 2 years removed from office. There are actually 2 recent voting records to compare. Both candidates have had a chance to weigh in on the major issues dividing the country today: healthcare, minimum wage, and women's rights. A side-by-side comparison like this hasn't happened in the district in more than 70 years. Both sides argue it will work to their advantage. Schneider knows his seat is vulnerable. He won it by fewer than 3,400 votes the last go-around. A similar outcome is expected again, though it may not be Schneider who prevails this time. Polls showed the two in a statistical tie. In fact, some political analysts predicted this race could be the closest congressional race in the country. That's why money from all over the country is coming in to fund both sides. Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg just contributed nearly $2 million for pro-Dole ads. According to filings with the Federal Election Commission, nearly $7.5 million have been spent by outside sources.